So, like you said, my name is Fardosa Mustafa. It is to promote community climate action. And then finally, I also run a youth group here in Nairobi. We're called Safisha Saturdays Initiative, and we kind of do the same thing on raising awareness on environmental laws and regulations in Kenya, and helping people understand how they can comply better, and how we can all just take care of our environment.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. Actually, when I first got the idea of doing an environmental session, at first my first thought was, you know, environmental lawyer, environmental. Why are you an environment? Who comes to you? Because I was thinking at it from a point of, you know, environment, mazingira, and I wasn't. And there is so much more than what you might think, and that is why she is here today. We have a lot that you can do to enhance the environment. You have a lot that you can actually. You as an individual, you have a role to play in ensuring that the environment in which you are in is safe, is clean, as well as ensuring that your next door neighbor sticks to the rule of law. So the first question I'm obviously going to ask, which I'm sure many people might be wondering, who and what is an environmental lawyer?
Yeah, my family is not very happy about me being an environmental lawyer. They also didn't understand at the beginning. But I keep telling people that law is so much more expansive beyond the courtroom, and there's so much more to discuss in the legal field beyond, you know, criminal and civil litigation cases, which is the most common form of practice. So environmental lawyers are basically people who do the same thing in court, but specifically for the environment and the people as well. Because like the environment is not just the physical environment, being the rivers, the lakes, the land, the trees and forests, but also us as people who are supposed to use this environment in a sustainable way. And of course, because there's people who have different kinds of interests, that doesn't mean they all align at the same time. It may be that your interest in the environment are not my interest in the environment, and they may actually affect me. So as a citizen of this country whose right to a clean and healthy environment has been guaranteed, where do they go? We know when someone is infringing on those rights. And also because the environment cannot defend itself, if someone is polluting a river and a concerned citizen wants to do something, they would come to someone like me.
So let me ask the question. I know you have partly answered it, but let me ask it again, like boldly. Someone, and I know this might be your family's point of view, and they might argue, you know, you don't really expect the government, the environment to be the one suing. You don't really expect the environment to be really per se in need of your services, as much as, you know, a business needs to thrive where there are legal frameworks and a criminal needs to be defended, and, you know, we see their work. But somebody might debate or might argue, I do not see myself ever encountering an environmental lawyer. Where would you say you are found?
Where would I say I am found?
Yes.
I would say it mostly when it comes to pollution, because that's also the area that I tend to focus on. So basically, like I said, if your right to a clean and healthy environment has been guaranteed under the Bill of Rights. There's also additionally Chapter 5 of the Constitution on the land and environment. And there are these obligations by the government, the obligations by citizens, the obligations by businesses, like you said, to make sure that they stay in line with the environmental regulations of this country. So if those things are not happening, that's where I would come in. So I'm just like any other lawyer. I have a practicing certificate. If you go to the LSK portal and search my name, you'll see I am there as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. So it's more or less the same thing, just a different kind of practice. We also go to court. Fortunately for us, we have a specialized court called the Environmental Land Court, which now handles specifically matters in the environment and land.
That is amazing to know that the environment as well has rights, and you just can't trample upon the environment however you feel like. Now let me ask this. When it comes to today, the 5th of May 2024, no, actually the 5th of May of every year, it is World Environment Day. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the World Environment Day is basically a day by the UN recognized globally on how we are doing as globally on taking care of our environment. So every year has a different theme, and the theme for this year is #Generation Restoration. So that's basically to say, yes, up to this moment, so many things have happened that has led to the degradation of our environment. That can be on the legal side as well, on the individual side, on the community aspect as well. So on that side, up to now, how do we move ahead? How do we turn back the clock of climate change? People say, yes, it's irreversible, the effects of climate change, but when there's a generation like ourselves that I really honestly deeply believe in to be the people who are going to turn that around because of our level of awareness and our passion about creating a livable planet for ourselves. So like this I said, is generation restoration. So it's just to urge us, it's like a call to action for what can you as an individual, as a business, as an institution do towards now contributing to restoration instead of pollution. So it's like now on the other end.
All right. Tell me a little bit about that when you talk about restoration, because I believe we are very progressive. We are a very progressive generation. We are a very progressive culture, and right now, as things are going, we are moving more into industrialization, and it is something that we cannot really move away from. So where do we place the balance, or where do we find the balance between being industrialized, having the world move forward faster, better, but still being able to take care of this environment? Because from where I sit or from where I stand, things seem to be like, the more harm this has on the environment.
So I'd like to first begin this from the context. I don't like to use these terms global north and global south, but that's the term that's being used in the development world. But basically the global north got all of its development and industrialization by exploiting fossil fuels, which are not right now as we know it. But for example, Africa as a continent, as much as we have all those resources, like in Nigeria, in even here in Kenya, in South Africa, I mean, we are known to be the richest continent. But because we have not exploited them the way the North has, due to a variety of reasons, say, for example, colonialism, we haven't been able to reach that level of development. And now the North, this is like a very heated debate right now in the climate change space of whether Africa should also exploit its resources the same way that the North did. So they can also get to that level of industrialization and it can come out of poverty, hunger, and all of these things. So that's where we are at right now, and that's why we have now the Sustainable Development Goals, and that's where that comes now to create that balance so that we don't keep going on that trajectory of unsustainable exploitation, but we can actually step back and say, okay, we want to get to point B, but in a more sustainable way. So how do we do that? And that's why now there's things like, circular economy that's coming in, because so far the world has been on such a linear economy where you just take, use, dispose, take, use, dispose. But now we're trying to see, okay, how can we go back to nature? Because even as, everything in nature goes back to the earth. That's the circular nature of our natural state. So it's now, how can the modern system copy that, or rather adopt to that, and make sure that now we are going back to our natural systems as opposed to unsustainable exploitative systems.
Where is Kenya right now when it comes to proper environmental care or environmental hygiene, if I can call it that way?
I'd say we've made some really good strides. I'll start with the legal sides. We have the very famous single-use plastic bans, single-use plastic bags ban of 2017, which really put us on the map, because that was a very bold move by Kenya. We realized that yes, there's this really big problem of single-use plastic bags. So what do? We just completely banned them. Yes, it's still making a comeback. Right now, if you go to your mama burger, your skuma will come wrapped in that. Even sometimes I go to buy some eggs and they come in. I'm just like, where are the Nemo guys? But we've made a lot of strides in that sense. We've also just recently amended our Climate Change Act to include carbon credits, market regulations. That's also really put us ahead of our peers as a continent. And we also have the Sustainable Waste Management Act, which is a very beautiful act, which is supposed to help us to dispose of our waste in a more sustainable way and also bring inclusivity. And because the system the way it is right now, it's hugely privatized. So that means if you can't pay for garbage collection, your garbage doesn't get collected. And that's why we have a lot of dump sites, not just in Nairobi, but even in Marsabit, where I come from. That's on the legal side. Now, the trick with this is the implementation. We need very strong institutions, we need strong people as leaders, we need activists, we need advocates, we need a population or a society that is aware of what's required of them as an individual, what's required of you as a business, so that you can align yourselves with where our country wants to be. And I would say Kenya is doing, honestly, quite well. It's not perfect, we are far from it. But compared to other places that haven't even started banning single-use plastics, I think we are ahead of the curve a little bit.
What are some of the things that somebody watching you right now at home can hear from you that can help them directly? The little things matter analogy. What are some of those little things that we can do even at home or on our own personal level to ensure that our environment is okay?
I would say the first for me would be SDG 12 or 13, which is sustainable production and consumption, because I feel like that's really the core of how our world is operating at the moment. So even as an individual, how are your consumption systems? If you're a business, how are your production systems?
Tell us a little bit about that. SDGs.
So SDGs are the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. They're supposed to equally apply in all society so that we can all be on the same page, and they each have targets. For example, when it comes to education, they need to reach a certain number of people by 2030. So the SDGs are up to 2030. So we have less than 6 years to get there. But we're still very far off from where those targets are. And so now that's what I would say. Actually, I'd piggyback off of that for your question of like, what can we do? We need to start knowing, we need to start learning and being aware. It's not like, I think if there's one thing everyone should care about, it's the environment. It's the one thing we all have in common. Because if it's air, if you live here and your house is clean but the air is dirty,
it doesn't help.
It doesn't really help you. And that's the challenge with this, because I feel like as a society we have forgotten that this is our shared home. And I don't put the blame entirely on us. It's also how the systems have been structured. And because if you're so busy dealing with your day-to-day survival, you won't really have time to think about, okay, this cup now that it's broken, where should I dispose of it? We need to have systems that are inclusive, that are holistic. So what can we do as an individual? I'll give you my own example. I am an expert when it comes to waste management, regulations, compliance, and things like that. That's like one of my areas of focus. So things like that is, a lot of people don't even know that we have a new Waste Management Act.
I am a lot of people.
You're a lot of people, yeah, I'm sure. Like every time I go to speak somewhere and I ask, who is aware of the new Waste Management Act? People just don't know. Granted, it has not been implemented yet, but it has been passed by Parliament. So it has been signed into law, but the implementation process has not started. So which is why I think maybe people are a little bit detached from it. But for example, one core thing from that act is that you should be separating your waste at home. So you should be having minimum 2 bins. One for food waste and one for dry waste, of which the dry waste would be your bottles, your glass, your aluminum, your paper. Like if your pen doesn't write anymore, you can put it there, because those are supposed to go to recyclables, which is now currently a very big market. And then the food waste. For me, like with the startup I told you in Watamu, I work with one of the communities there, and we've set up a composting site. So they bring their food waste there, we process it, and we produce organic fertilizer and compost. And that's from things that would have ended up at the landfill and would have decomposed so slowly. And in the process, it releases greenhouse gases, which is what is leading to climate change. So those are some of the little actions you can take. You even need to understand at home, what am I producing? What do I use the most? Can I reduce this so that my waste in general can be low? Or, okay, even if I'm producing this much, where is the right place for me to take them so that they don't end up in the landfill?
And that was about to be my next question, because I'm thinking, even if we go to the extent of, you know, separating for example, the waste in whatever form or manner, then what? Because I don't think our garbage collection system is at that place where they come looking, hizi ni zile zinaoza, hizi haziozi, hizi ni recyclables. Yeah. So what happens?
So for this we need all hands on deck. Okay. And I mean all hands on deck from the house all the way the government institutions, the private sector, the waste collectors, the county government, who actually now under even our constitution and the act, it's a mandate of the county government. So you can't be going to the ministry for your waste management needs. You have to go to your county government. You have to go like the lowest level, which is your ward representative. That's where you have to start. So there's you as a consumer, right? If you do your part and separate your waste, the next step would be kind of align between the county government and the private companies, because these two will have a contract to ensure that your waste is collected, right? So at that point, if the county government does not create a standardized system, the private companies have no incentive unless they're recycling companies. If they're not a recycling company and their work is just to transport and dispose, they don't care how it comes. Then they just like, let's just fill our truck and go. But then if there's a standardized system, and now the act says that you should have different colored bins or different colored bags, so that for green bags it goes to food waste. For maybe black bags it goes to recycling, so that either when the company is collecting, they don't have to go and do sorting again. You know, that work has to start. The holy grail of waste management is waste separation at source, where it's being produced, because that's the easiest place to do it. And then now, of course, there's the enforcement mechanism. The county has to do its part, NEMA has to do its part. There's also the civil society, where the government is slacking, it can come in and for accountability purposes. And then there's like, say, youth movements like ours, where we can create this awareness within the community and at individual level.
So right now, hearing it from you now that it has already been passed, we're waiting for the implementation. So it means the government is already a step ahead towards the right direction. So the next step is for me, local mwananchi, to know exactly what needs to be done. And then once, of course, you know, mwananchi ama local, the common mwananchi, whenever they start a movement, it's a movement all the way to the top, and the leaders have nothing else to do but to pick it up. I want to ask this, playing the devil's advocate, you know, sawa, mimi nitatoa bags zangu hivyo venye ziko, aya, hawa wenye the garbage collectors, we don't get any recognition from the government. In fact, even from where I stay, those who collect the garbage, it's a self-help group. Like, they do it, and because they know that Dandora is a dumping site, they just they buy trucks, they do whatever they have to do, they just go dump at Dandora, the dumping site. What do you believe there is actually a mechanism that can shift these self-help groups who are making a living out of picking and disposing? Is there something they can do? Is there a way out for them?
I definitely think there is, because they're already kind of halfway there. They have the incentive to do what they're doing, whether it's for money or because they care about the environment. The work is happening, right? Actually, and things ending up at Dandora at the moment, even though it's full, it's kind of a best case scenario, because if it doesn't go to Dandora, it will end up somewhere on the road. You know, and that's worse, because it's exposing everyone else to that, the negative impacts of poor disposal. And so the thing about that is, I think honestly, even from my experience working with self-help groups like that, working with private companies, it just needs to be, I think the bulk of this work is with the government. Because if they set that standard and they say, unless you can meet these standards, we're not giving you a license to collect waste.
Yeah.
Unless you're giving your clients 3 different bags and you're collecting them A, B, C, D, you're not giving you a license. What will the private companies do? Of course they'll comply because that's their business. If they don't comply, they don't get a license. So then they can't do that work. I feel like the bulk of this work is on the government, because from the government they can also do a lot of engagement. They can do a lot of, I mean, if they can get election materials to the ends of this Kenya, surely they can teach people what they need to do with their waste. For me, I feel like marginalization is just an excuse to exclude people, because like where I come from in Marsabit, election materials will get there the same day and will vote the same day as everyone else. But it's not the same when it comes to like other resources, like, you know, even though it's a county government, there's just a bit of marginalization where the government is not doing everything that it can. Sure, there's like a lot of cartels, there's an issue of resources, there's even an issue of expertise, because it doesn't mean that just because it's the government that they have all the necessary expertise to implement this. So the institutional strength is also very important. And from my experience, I honestly feel like that is what is largely lacking in our waste management system. Not even just waste management, but even environmental regulation in general. Because we make amazing laws, but there's a missing link of the strength of institutions to implement these regulations. So then the Mwananchi now is just like, okay, if the government doesn't care me, I'll just do what I can.
This is, you know, the more we're talking, the more I'm realizing that we're opening a Pandora's box.
Yes, welcome to my life.
Oh Lord, I need to talk to your parents. They need to understand. I can explain. But this is huge, and there's a lot to be done. I assure you, you're coming back.
I'd love to. We can talk about this for months. Trust me.
But I just want to give you a bit of time to tell us a bit about Safisha Sato, the initiative. Tell us a bit about it.
I would love to. Safisha Saturday is a passion project for me. Maybe just a little bit of background is why I got into waste management. Is growing up in Marsabit, it's a very small community. And I used to see and we had like cows and goats growing up. So I would see my grandma just, you know, if it's the food, it doesn't go in the bin, it will go to the goats because they'll eat whatever. And then if it's the tins and the bottles, she just put them together and there would be someone that is coming to collect. So now when I came to Nairobi for high school, I just was like, I got a culture shock because I was like, wait, why is everything going the same place? I don't feel like that. And this is like when I was still in high school, I didn't even know anything about laws or whatever. It was just kind of became an instinct for me. So through uni, I was volunteering, going to cleanups, going to tree plantings. I took all the environmental law courses that were being offered at university. And then slowly now I started building my career upon that, and now just trying to create a niche for myself. And that's how Safisha Saturdays was born, because I was like, I really enjoy this work that I'm doing, and I want to include as many people as I can, especially young people, because young people are very impressionable. And when you tell them one thing, it's very harder to change someone in their 40s to tell them you need to change things. But if I can catch someone from 15 going onwards, even younger, like my baby cousins and my nephews, I talk to them about all of these things because they need to start learning as young as they are. And Safisha Saturday's initiative is targeted at young people. We want to change hearts, we want to change minds before they get somewhere that is, you know, too far gone. So all we do is we organize cleanups in Nairobi, and now also in Watamu. We had our cleanup in Watamu as well. We do community engagement forums, especially in South B, because that's where we are largely located. We do climate education workshops like the one I just came from today. We use scientific data and facts, but in like a fun way, using card games, just trying to, like, you know, make that information accessible and easily understandable. Because if you go at it with like hard facts and hard science, it may not be easy for everyone to understand. So you have to come down to their level, and that was the goal of Safisha Saturday, so we can try to reach as many people at the grassroots level. And then now through our partnerships, we can also reach the institutions and the private sector.
That's amazing. Keep it up. So now talk to the people at home. Tell them if they're looking forward to meet you, they'd want to join you or to partner with you. I don't know. Sell yourself.
Yes, so first of all, happy World Environment Day. Yay. I hope we are all a part of the generation restoration. We can do it. Everyone has a responsibility, and I believe that if you understand your responsibility first as an individual and as an inhabitant of this earth, where we have nowhere else to go. It's the only one that we have. I think that's the first step. Once you understand your responsibility and of course your impact, there's something called the carbon footprint, which is like basically your impact on this planet because of your use, your transport, you know, your plastic products and all of those things. So by understanding that, you can now start working backwards and say, okay, I'm using 5 bottles a month, how can I get down to 4 bottles? You know, okay, or how can I start making my own compost instead of buying chemical fertilizer, which is harmful to the soil? So, and if you're, say, for example, an architect, you can say, how can I start designing more green buildings? You know, if you're a government person, you can say, how can I, you know, work towards implementation? Yeah, so basically for me, it's like everyone needs to understand their responsibility at an individual level, in your professional capacity, at your community level, and then from there we can all now just come together, have a multi-stakeholder and multi-sectoral approach, because other than that holistic approach, if we keep everyone going their own way, we won't get to the same destination. But we all want to be at the same destination when we have a restored planet. So my message is, understand your responsibility, understand your impact, and then from there you will find the tribe. You'll find people like me who are willing to hold your hand, who are willing to guide you in this process, and just so we can all treat our planet better and be good citizens.
Passion, people. Passion. Thank you very much. I assure you she's coming back. Please.
I will. I'd love to.
Thank you very much for your time. That has been an amazing and insightful session. Indeed, there is so much we can do. You can do, I can do, we can all do. The government, it is all up to us. Let's make Kenya great. I won't say again. No, let's make it great. I don't think it has ever been. But let's just make it great. Let's make sure your carbon footprint is beautiful. It's amazing. It's green.
Yes.
Make sure you leave the country greener than you found it. And that is my parting shot. My name is Consolata Chibalonza. I know you're all celebrating World Environment Day. Happy World Environment Day to you and to every other environmentalist out there, young, old, new, and all those who feel inspired right now. Happy Environmental Day. Let's keep this conversation talking. I think we will be calling even maybe members of the public to come and weigh in. Yes. We're sending you some of the links and you hear what people have to say. And let's just see. You never know. Just spark the conversation. Kwa barabara, kwa gari, kwa mat. You never know who will hear, and you never know how far one spark can go. I wish you a good night. God bless. Until next time, stay happy and green.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That was nice.